Have you ever heard of the method Hoya, which is a solving style or solving method for 4x4 and up until 7x7, where essentially you just make two centers which are not your cross color. Then after that, you make one center which is your cross color. For example, I'll go with yellow. And then just build a center adjacent to it. And then for last two centers, you're gonna make your cross edges while solving. You're gonna make the cross edges, then you're gonna do that, and then you can just do L to C and continue edge pairing like normal. But I've come up with a different approach to Hoya. Well, I mean, like, we still make the first two centers just like how we do for normal Hoya, and like all the way up till L to C, last two centers. I've come up with a different method instead of just normal Hoya. Now, instead of normal Hoya, I've come up with the method of Hoya Plus. Now, what Hoya Plus is, it's kind of like an add-on to Hoya, in which involves after making all your cross edges. I'm just gonna make all my cross edges real quick. Like, just give me a second. After making all the cross edges on the 4x4, what you're gonna do is right after you do FL to hide this edge so that you can do last two centers, what you can do is make a bar, like this sort of bar. Keep it on the right side and then do an L prime to pair up the cross edge. And before you do anything else, instead of fixing the centers, we're gonna pair up more edges. So for example, I see this edge over here, and we want to keep like empty slots. So we want the bars to be vertical once we're done making all the edges, but for now we're gonna make edges and make sure that we have like these bars. Otherwise, we may accidentally break up edges after like solving more edges, and like, yeah, then we will have to create more edges. Now let me tell you the pros of this add-on. Now we will be able to skip F8E almost and get to L4E or maybe L3E instantly. I tried to do practice solve and I even got all the way to L2E by using this advanced technique which I came up with. Now let's get into it. So there's this edge over here which is fixed, and I can insert into the back slot. And I also see this one, so I can just insert into the back slot, but look, the back slot's already full. So I can just insert into this right slot, like so. Now we're gonna find matching pairs, like for example these two, which I can just position this one like right here. Actually, I'll choose this one since it's in the right slice. Or you can just do an F2 and use left slices. But since I'm right-handed, I'll use right slices. It's completely up to you whether you're left-handed or right-handed. Honestly, I'm right-handed, so I'm just gonna stick with right slices. So I'll choose this one. I'll bring it into my slice there. Slice up. U prime, slice down. U. And now it's in the slice layer. I can pair it up with this one, with slice. U prime, slice. And now we have this over here, so we're just gonna put that to the side, and now we want this one to go here. Now we'll get all the way to L4E in this way, and once we only have like 4 unpaired edges, then we can just insert it with slice up, U2, slice down, and then F prime, and you have done your first 4 edges, and you only have L4E left. Now I'm going to show you another example of how you can achieve this. I'm going to show you like different examples. So yeah, let's get into the second one. Now be aware that the first example was a lucky one because it already had a few already prepared edges. But the second one hopefully is also is actually not as lucky, so that I can actually teach you the main concepts of Hoya Plus. So yeah, I'm just gonna make my centers and also the cross edges, and I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, now that I've made my all 4 cross edges, I'm just gonna do FL, and I see that we do not have a bar obviously, so we're gonna make it by inserting this, for example, and we're gonna put this bar on the right side and then do an L prime to attach this bar to the cross edge. Now over here, for example, I see this blue and yellow over here. I'm gonna have to take a seat for this one. Alright, so we see this blue and yellow over here, and then we see this blue and yellow over here. I can just insert this over here with this, and then I can just slice up, and there are two options from here. One, you can replace it with any random edge, which is the beginner one. For example, I can insert into the back slot, which is more favorable, and then slice back down. But there is an advanced version where if I slice back, then I'll know that whatever edge is over here will come to this spot, and this spot is right next to the orange and yellow which I see, and I find the other piece over here. So I can just insert this orange and yellow over here like this, and then slice back down to create two edges, and thus inserting this into the back slot. I'll then insert this into the back slot, and please fill up the back slots, as the back slots are not disturbed, and we know that, and it's guaranteed that whatever back slot edges are there, they will stay preserved. And guess what? Let me show you another little trick. Like these two and these two, this orange and red and blue, and this red and blue, I can just boom, slice, and if this disrupts the bar, put it aside like this, and recreate the bar like so. And we also got lucky within our edge, so then we can just put this down, and we can even create F12 pairs, but make sure they're not front slot ones. Please have back slot F12 pairs, which I'll show you in the next example. Okay, so now that we are at L40 or maybe even L3E, it's almost impossible to avoid this situation. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to like break up an edge. But wait, I can actually show you the F2L pair example because I just saw this pair. So these two colors are like the back slot ones for this example, so I can just pair them up like so and insert. And then I see that my color scheme is wrong, which I'll fix later on in the solve. Now I just have to make my last two centers, which I'll do like this. And then I can just check out the last four edges and then just continue my solve like normal. Alright, now let's get into the next example. Okay, so the next example is gonna be right here soon. Just give me a minute. Okay, now we've reached L2C, last two centers, aka the L2C plus 4 edge stage, which we'll call which I'll come up with a name later. Alright, I'll put it in the description. Alright, anyways, I see by this corner that the color scheme is correct this time. Thank gosh. We're gonna be focusing on Hoya Plus, not the color scheme. So I also see that this is a really lucky situation where we already have pre-made bars. So I can just do FL, F2, and then L prime to get the bar over here. And then we can just search for pieces like, for example, this red and or yellow, which I can just U2 or U prime R prime U to preserve the bars, slice up. And I can also use like a 3 to 3 edge pairing approach, where whichever piece from here comes down will pair up with this orange and yellow. So I found the orange and yellow over here, and then I insert it into the back, and thus making this a back slot one, and then slicing back, which is also a really good situation. So I can also see in the back that this is a blue and red, so I'll find the next blue and red, which is right here. Make sure they're in different slice lines like over here, otherwise if they're in the same, then that could be a little problematic. And I will show you a case where if they're the same, then yeah, there could be a problem. So yeah, I'll just show you those problematic cases later on after this example. So I can just sledge this over here, and then I can slice up, and I see I can take the same 3 to 3 edge pairing approach, where I can insert where whichever piece is here will pair up here. And in this situation, it's going to be the green and orange. So I see my green and orange over here. I insert it, and then I slice down. Now that we're done with these, we can just put this away like so, and then insert this blue bar like so, R prime, F prime. And now we are at L3E, meaning like, oh wait, no, we are at L2E. We made 6 edges in that example. This is how crazy the method is, I'm telling you. Give it a try, and yeah. Now let's get into some problematic examples of my method and how I would go over them. Alright, so here it goes. Now for some problematic examples, after making your bar, you may run into a specific case like let's say where you have no bar and these two are over here. Actually, let's go over the bar cases. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Now you may run into a problematic case where there are two pieces but they're in the same slice layer. Now a good solution for this is to just keep this blue bar. For example, in this example, you see how we have to insert pieces like this. We must keep this over here so that we can just kind of insert it like this. That's kind of like the orientation we want to hold it in. And if the pieces are in the yellow slice layer, for example, and not in the one which goes over here, then you must put them in this slide layer so that once you insert, you see there like that. Now that's the orientation. Let's get into the actual case alg. So we hold it from here, we do slice up, u2, slice down, u2, slice down, and we're going to use the same 3 to 3 edge pairing approach. So this edge we can just insert. We see that this red and yellow will come up if I slice up. So once I have sliced down, I'll find the red and yellow. But thankfully it's in a back slot because we will be able to insert this into back slot, thus removing one back slot so that we don't have to look into the back slot, which we can insert like this. For those insertions, you may have to get used to it and actually experiment around. You have to play around with your cube and understand how insertions work. So then I could just slice back up to create this edge. Now I can do the next edge, which can be this green and red, or I can do this blue and yellow, which is in the back slot. So I can bring the back slot one here, then slice, and use the same 3 to 3 edge pairing approach after putting this one back here. With this back slot already solved now, with this paired up edge, we see that this red and orange is going to come up. So I can just insert this red and orange like 1, 2, 3, and then slice up and undo those setup moves. And now we have another back slot solved. Now we have solved the edge over here or at the back. Please insert it into this front right slot, or it could be front left if you're doing left-handed, but I'm right-handed, so I'm just going to do right-handed. Now we have run into a problematic situation, which involves this edge piece over here, which is already paired up, which you think is obviously going to ruin this edge over here. But do not worry, you can insert it like normal because it preserves the pairing. And then you can just once you reach like 4 broken edge pairs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, then you can insert it, or maybe you can even try to do more and experiment a little bit. But I recommend you just sticking to last 4 edges. But I can try to do more, like here, this green and red, slice up, and yeah, over here we're just gonna insert this and then slice down. Now we've gone all the way to L3E, which can help, which is like significant, really, I'm telling you, which barely involves parity at all. But yeah, now if I try to put the centers and like fix the centers, I'll have 3 edges remaining. And make sure they're all in like the middle slice. Make sure they're not at the back, because you already have a cross edge at the back. You want them at the bottom front, the top front, and the back. Alright, we want them in like the M slice, so that like when we insert, then none of our edges are disrupted. But we can try to do even more if we just flip this one like that, and then we just try to take this out. You can just slice up over here, insert this, and then slice down, and yeah, we can just fix the centers, thus reducing our cube all the way to L2E. Now this is a pretty crazy method. I recommend you just sticking to reducing it all the way to L4E, but if you really have the time to experiment with my new method, that would really be great. And yeah, if you have time to experiment, then I recommend you going for it. And it depends on you. So if you have like really good inspection, then oh wait, no, what I mean is that if you can actually think of really good solutions, then I recommend you going all the way to L2E, as it will make you take less time on your edges in Hoya Plus. Now that is it. This is Kaiju Cubing's method, aka me. I made up this Hoya Plus like I think like yesterday maybe. And yeah, that's really it. Thank you so much for watching. This is Kaiju Cubing signing off.